opportunity, the fossil fuel industry, to destroy our planet. I believe in a tax on carbon because I see climate change as one of the great global crises that we face. Secretary Clinton does not support a tax on carbon. One of the great crises that we are beginning to see unfold is whether or not in our country and around the world we will have the clean drinking water that our people need. And that is why I believe we should move to a ban on fracking. That is my view. Unfortunately, it is not Secretary Clinton's view. In fact, when she was Secretary of State, she pushed fracking technology onto countries around the world. The great foreign policy debate, the most important debate that we have had in the modern history of our country, centered around Iraq and whether to go into Iraq. I listened very carefully to what President Bush and Dick Cheney and the others had to say. I voted against that war. Secretary Clinton voted for that war. I believe that when you have a handful of large financial institutions on Wall Street, institutions who have a business model of fraud, institutions which, through their illegal behavior and their greed, drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. I believe that now is the time to break them up. That is my view. That is not Secretary Clinton's view. One of the reasons that the middle class of this country has been in decline for the last 35 years has to do with a disastrous trade policy which has ended up shutting down thousands of factories in America as companies shut down here, threw workers out on the street, and moved to China and other low-wage countries. I voted against every one of those disastrous trade agreements. Secretary Clinton supported almost all of them. What this campaign is about is whether or not we are going to create an economy that works for all of us or an economy that continues to work for the 1%. It is not acceptable to me that in America today we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. It's worse now than at any time since 1928. It is not acceptable that the top 0.1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. It is not acceptable to me that in my state of Vermont and here in California, And all over this country, we have millions of people who are working not one job, but 2 jobs and 3 jobs to cobble together the income and health care they need. And yet, when mom works, dad works, and the kids work, it ends up that 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That is not acceptable. This campaign is listening to the American people and not just to wealthy campaign contributors. This campaign is listening to young people. And young people are asking me, how does it happen that when they do the right thing, when they go out and get the best education they can, they end up $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 in debt? We should not be punishing people for getting an education. We should reward them. 40, 50 years ago, if you had a high school degree, you were in pretty good shape. You could go out, get yourself a good job. Those days, by and large, are gone. We have a changing economy, changing technology, and a changing global economy. We need to have the best educated workforce in the world. And that means that when we think about public education, it's not good enough now just to think about first grade through 12th grade. We need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. I want every kid in California in the 4th grade and the 6th grade, kids in Vermont, to understand that if they study hard and take school seriously, no matter what the income of their family is, they will be able to get a college education. How many people here are carrying student debt right now? I have talked to people all over this country. People $50,000, $100,000 in debt. For what crime did they commit? That they went out and got a decent education? That is crazy stuff. So we are going to give people with student debt the right to refinance their loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. And people say, my critics say, well, Bernie, you're Santa Claus, you're giving away free tuition, you're going to lower student debt, how are you going to pay for it? I will tell you exactly how we're going to pay for it. 2009, Congress, against my vote, bailed out the crooks on Wall Street. Today, Wall Street is doing just fine, and I think it is appropriate to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. And that tax will more than pay for free tuition at public colleges and universities and lowering student debt. Now, Wall Street doesn't like that idea, and I say, so what? If we win this election, Wall Street and the other people who now run this country are going to learn a very profound lesson, and that is they will not continue to get it all. I am sick and tired of the greed of corporate America and the greed of Wall Street. We need a new moral compass in this country. You know, Pope Francis talks about a moral economy, and I agree with him. That is what we need. This campaign is listening to our Latino brothers and sisters. My father came to this country at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, so I know a little bit about the immigrant experience. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country today. Many of them are being exploited on the job because when you don't have legal rights, you can't stand up and protect yourself. And that is why I believe we must pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. And that is why I believe we must stop immediately the current deportation policy. And if Congress does not do its job, I will use the executive powers of the presidency to do what's right. This campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the African American community. And they are asking me a very simple but important question. How does it happen that this country has trillions of dollars to spend on a war in Iraq we never should have gotten into, but somehow we don't have the available funds to rebuild our inner cities? I have been to Flint, Michigan, and visited with parents whose children have been poisoned by lead in the water. I have been to Detroit, Michigan, where their public school system is on the verge of fiscal collapse. I have been to Baltimore, Maryland, where tens of thousands of people are addicted to drugs and don't have the treatment available to get them off that heroin. We as a nation together are going to change our national priorities. We are going to rebuild our inner cities, build affordable housing, create decent schools for our children. And this campaign is listening to a people whose pain is almost never heard, and that is our Native American brothers and sisters. We owe the first Americans a debt of gratitude that we can never repay. They have taught us so much. including the very important lesson that as human beings, all of us are part of nature. We must live with nature. And we cannot continue to destroy nature, because if we destroy nature, we are destroying ourselves. Together, this campaign and our presidency are going to reform a broken criminal justice system. It is not acceptable, I believe, to any of us that we have 2.2 million people in jail today, more than any other country on earth. Instead of seeing kids around this country in inner cities or in rural America experience 40–50% unemployment rates, we are going to put those kids to work at good jobs, and we're going to invest in education for them, not jails or incarceration. We want this country to be the best educated country on earth, not the country with more people in jail. What this campaign is about is thinking outside of the box, outside of the status quo. Every other major country on earth, whether it's the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Scandinavia, Canada, every major country guarantees health care to all of their people as a right. The Affordable Care Act has done some very good things, but we have a lot more to do. I believe from the deepest part of my soul that health care is a right, not a privilege. Today we have 29 million people with no insurance, even more who are underinsured with large deductibles and co-payments, and every one of us is getting ripped off by the greed of the drug companies. Pharmaceutical industry charges us by far the highest prices in the world for the medicine that we need. And by the way, on the ballot in November here in California, you're going to have a proposition making sure that California can control the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs. I congratulate those people who put that item on the ballot. Let's pass it. Together, we will end the fact that we are the only major country without health care for all, that we pay far, far more per capita for health care than any other country. We're going to end that by passing a Medicare for all health care system. Now, the insurance companies may not like it. The drug companies may not like it, but the American people do like it, and that's what we got to do. This campaign understands a very, very important historical lesson, and that lesson is that no real change has ever occurred in our country from the top on down. It has always been from the bottom on up. Think back 120 years ago when workers in this country were forced to work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. They had no rights on the job. Think about the children, 10, 11 years of age, losing their fingers in factories. And what the working people of this country said: sorry, we are human beings. We're not beasts of burden. We're going to form trade unions and negotiate contracts. And I thank the trade union movement for creating the American middle class. Think about 150 years ago. In the midst of the abomination of slavery, there were African Americans and their allies who were prepared to go to jail, to get beaten, to get lynched, who stood up and said, the day will come in this country when we will end racism and bigotry and segregation. And over the years, millions of people were engaged in that struggle. Think about where we were as a country 100 years ago, not such a long time ago. 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote, could not get the education or the jobs they wanted. But women stood up and fought back. Women stood up to the establishment which said to them, your job is to stay home and have babies. But women said, you will not define us. We will define ourselves. And women and their male allies said loudly and clearly, women in America will not be second-class citizens. If we were here 10 years ago, no time at all, somebody jumps up and says, you know, Bernie, I think that, say, by the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in every state in this country. If somebody said that, the person next to her would have said, you are nuts. Wouldn't happen. But what happened is the gay community and their straight allies stood up against incredible bigotry. Against all kinds of abuse. And they said together that in this country, people should have the right to love whoever they want, regardless of their gender. And let me give you a more contemporary example. If 5 years ago, somebody here stood up and said, Bernie, you know, this $7.25 minimum wage, that's really awful, it's terrible, we got to raise it to $15 an hour. The person next to him would have said, $15 an hour? You are nuts. You're thinking too radically. You're an extremist. But then what happened, and we got some of them here, workers in the fast food industry went out on strike. In McDonald's and in Burger King and in Wendy's and in Subway and all these places, they told their community and they told the world They cannot live on $7.25 an hour. And then you know what happened after the strikes and the demonstrations? In Seattle, here in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, $15 an hour. And if I have anything to say about it, and I will as president, $15 an hour in every state in this country. What is my point? Here is my point. That throughout, I think you got my point, but I want to... I want you to think about this. Throughout history, people looked around them. And if they were a worker working 7 days a week with no power, they saw that as being unjust, unfair. They stood up and they fought back. In the days of terrible segregation and slavery, people said, America will not be racist. Women fought back. The gay community fought back. Low-income workers fought back. That's what change is about. And right now, from coast to coast, and I've been from Maine to California, I am seeing millions of people looking around them. And they're saying, wait a second, what is going on in our country when we have such a grotesque level of income and wealth inequality, and almost all new income and wealth is going to the top 1%? What is going on when the middle class continues to disappear? And we have more children, we have a higher rate of childhood poverty than almost any country on earth. What is going on when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave? Not to guarantee health care to all people. What is going on when women are making 79 cents on the dollar? And when young people are leaving school $50,000 in debt. Now, what the establishment wants you to believe is that real change, effectively dealing with these issues, is impossible. It's too big. It's too radical. The options they want to give you, the media wants to give you, Congress wants to give you, should we cut food stamps or should we cut education? We do not accept those choices. We're going to ask... At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, yeah, we are going to tell the wealthiest people and the largest corporations they are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. If the American people are prepared to reject the Donald Trumps of the world who want to divide us up, they want to divide us up. But if we stand together as black and white and Latino and Asian American, as Native American, if we stand together as gay and straight, male and female, if we stand together as people born in this country and people who have come into this country, if we stand together and have the courage to take on the billionaire class, to demand a government which represents all of us and not just the 1%, together there is nothing we cannot accomplish. As all of you know, in a few weeks there is going to be an enormously important primary here in California. And what I have found throughout this campaign is we win primaries and caucuses when the voter turnout is high. We lose when it is low. Let us have in the California Democratic primary the largest voter turnout in the history of the state.